Just
I got a virus in my phone.
up by the Fisher there again. Well,
Giving me fits.
out
I'm
the
taking
corner.
it to
Post office,
That little strip mall.
Toward the ball diamond, you mean? Oh, you mean out north? Okay.
I'd like to call to order the Tuesday, November 19th meeting of the Danville City Council. Roll call to establish a quorum, please.
Mayor Ricky Williams Jr.,
Present.
Alderman Ed Butler,
Present.
Heidi Wilson, Carolyn Wands,
Present.
James Bouchard,
Present.
Mike O'Kane,
Here.
Bob Iverson,
Present.
Mike Poor,
Present.
Rick Streebing,
Here.
Sherry Pickering,
Here.
Eve Ludwig,
Present.
Tricia Teague, Robert Williams,
Present.
Darren York,
Here.
John Cooper,
Here.
13 present.
13 present. We do have a quorum. At this time, we will have the invocation led by the Reverend James Ford, the pastor of Abundant Life Pentecostal Church of God, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by Alderwoman Pickering. Please rise.
Father, we ask you tonight to be in charge. Lord, we are finite people and we know very little about your master plan for Danville. But Lord, you can direct us. Work within our spirit. Lord, you say they that follow you in spirit, so let us follow you tonight. Lord, we ask your knowledge, we ask your wisdom, we ask your guidance in this meeting here tonight. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor Ford. We'd be happy to hear from you about anything you'd like to share about what's happening at the church.
Well, we're kind of slow right now. We've been really busy this year. They've given, don't know the numbers, real numbers of clothing away this year, furniture away. The city allows Greg Miller to have a rummage sale on our property there, which brings clothing from all over Danville. He picks up things from rummage sales, brings them to there, and we don't charge for people that come and get stuff. It is free. Anything that we're donated to Abundant Life, we give it away to somebody else that needs it. So that, that's the purpose of what we do at our church. We're on Facebook every time we have a church service, so we're reaching people all over the world. I've got 8 different pastors in Africa, 3 different pastors in India, and 2 pastors in Pakistan that regularly watch the church services from here at Danville. So we are reaching out, and Danville is a blessed town. We started here in 1943. The church started in Danville. The building that we're in now started to build in 1953. And they finished that in 1959, and then God called that pastor to go to Jamaica. And he went there and built a college in Jamaica. And as of this point right here, from then to now, they have put 50 pastors across Jamaica that is part of our organization. And that, God blessed us at Abundant Life. He blessed us with so many different things. And as we give things away, when we had our food pantry running, we were serving 400 people a week in our food pantry. And we didn't put a limit on what they can come and get. And it's still the same today. If somebody comes in there and takes a whole carload of clothing, we let them have that. We have all types of knickknacks, and we have food every now and then that we give away. But, it is a church that gives back to our community with everything that we can.
Well, we appreciate you, Pastor Ford, and everything that you and your folks do for the community.
All right.
Mrs. Ford,
We've got a blanket drive going on right now. We're trying to gain blankets. We'll give them the way right after Black Friday. following that day, we'll give blankets away. And last year, we gave over 500 blankets out to people. And right now, we are trying to do an extra drive for blankets for the rescue mission. We're trying to get enough stuff to give, anything that we can get, that we can give to them to help the homeless people in Danville. That's what we're doing. That's Abundant Life, for a quick look at us.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Pastor
you.
Ford. We
Lord bless.
appreciate you. You have before you the minutes of the November 5th meeting. Is there a motion to approve those?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion or debate? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Thank you. You also have an agenda this evening. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion or debate? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Thank you very much. As far as my report, I do not have any proclamations. Are there any board? Neither do I have any board, committee, or personnel appointments. Are there any reports of boards, agencies, or commissions? Seeing none, just a quick reminder, MLK scholarship applications are still being received, and we hope to get some solid applicants for that. It's a great job. As a reminder, Administrator Finch just notified us that the recipient will receive $6,000
Yes,
now
and-
instead of $4,000, correct?
yes, it's been increased to 6,000, and the deadline for the applications is December 6th.
Very good. Thank you, Administrator. Items of information, many of you may have seen this, but unfortunately, we lost one of our leading citizens. Mr. Big Jim Darby passed away. He had, from talking to the family, he had been sick about a month, but they didn't expect it to come when they did. So please make sure that you keep the Darby family in your prayers. They do a whole lot for the community, and we sure appreciate them. So. Also, just want to remind everyone, we have our Night of Lights parade coming up on December 6th, and we hope to see everyone there. We always have a very good crowd, so look forward to seeing everyone out for that also. At this time, we will open the public hearing on the 2024 proposed property tax levy and 2025-2026 proposed budget. Madam Clerk, is there anybody here at this time that wishes to speak on those matters, either
Yes.
for, in favor of or against, or just generally?
Yes, I have one card. Doug Arns, 3007 Golf Terrace of Danville, regarding the budgets and fund management.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. I'll try to be brief. The items that I would like to highlight for everyone's consideration are relating to some of the enterprise funds as well as the casino dollars. For many of you that have been on the council more recently and have not been on for the years that some of the more senior members have been, the developers of the casino, and I don't mean the developers that actually made the project, but the community leaders that initiated the purpose of the casino, was to create community improvements that would make our community more attractive and more desirable for both business and personal interests. There were specific discussions through the years, and there was a general understanding that those dollars would not be used to pay employee salaries or employee benefits. That was not the purpose. The purpose was to do things like demolish houses that need to be removed from your neighborhoods, to improve infrastructure, to create business enhancements, and to do other things that could build the community. And so, looking at the budget based on the numbers that I've seen, the combined general fund transfer that goes to the levy as an abatement totals about $2,272,200. The casino total revenues projected by this budget are $2,235,000, which means regardless of the shell game and the way things are moved, 100% of the casino proceeds are paying pensions. Now that's not what that was intended for, and it's not helping our neighborhoods get rid of dilapidated houses. That is the priority need. I've lived in those neighborhoods. You do live in those neighborhoods. We all do. And so that was the priority. And those were the kinds of things the casino dollars were taken for. the dollars to be spent on pensions and employee benefits should be coming from the general fund. And the general fund needs to be managed in a manner that it can do that. That's not what's taking place based on the budget that is before you this evening. I would strongly encourage you to all reconsider that and to recognize that paying employee benefits with the treasure that was provided to us by people who started that over 20 years ago, probably 30 years ago, actually, on Hazel Street was when it began. That's a more appropriate use than employee benefits. The next item I relate to is general city government. When the sewer fee, which some of us consider unethical because it does not transparently explain to people what they're paying for stormwater, and it disproportionately requires seniors to pay for a larger stormwater expense as opposed to large commercial and retail facilities. No other community that I'm aware of in the state of Illinois taxes or assesses fees for stormwater through their sanitary sewer fee. Your ordinances specifically prohibit the two from mixing. So once again, that's not logical, it's not consistent, and it's not beneficial when we're trying to locate industry to fill the Quaker site and other places. People that utilize water are being punished in a disproportionate share. That needs to be corrected. The addition of personnel into the enterprise funds has obviously diluted what they're able to complete as far as projects. I see we're up to 18.5 full-time employees now in the sewer fund. Never before were those numbers the case. So once again, how are we utilizing the funds? The enterprise funds were to only cover the salaries. And if you do want to, I certainly understand allocating costs for administrative fees. But what's not in the budget is the other half of that balance, where the general fund has to pay the enterprise funds when sewer personnel, trucks, equipment, solid waste personnel, trucks, equipment are plowing snow or doing other things. So I'm very interested in the allocation process that decides why enterprise funds pay into the general fund, but the general fund never reimburses the enterprise funds. That's inconsistent in financial management. The next is the fact that the pool now is getting a transfer out of the general fund of $280,000. If you recall, the first time I was here and suggested that the pool was going to be a significant money loser, the budget that came out of the Public Works Director at that time was that you would lose $15,000 a year. That's a far cry from $280,000. So we've spent $13 million so that we can lose another $1 million every 3 years. That doesn't seem logical in a community with limited resources. And so what's the solution? The solution is better management of the general fund so that we're not pushing expenses into the enterprise funds. And you should revisit the issue of storm sewer. If it's okay to use general fund monies to supplement the pool as an enterprise fund, why is it not okay to use retail sales tax to take care of storm sewer, which is the way it was voted in at the time? At the same time, the infrastructure fund in that same period, as well as the community reinvestment fund, were both created as enterprise funds so that personnel expenses were not coming out of there. It was supposed to be project oriented. There were no personnel expenses taken out of those budgets until this administration came into place. That means fewer houses getting torn down. It means fewer community improvement projects going on. And it means that going forward, that's going to be the case. In the particular case of the Infrastructure Development Fund, it's now moving money into the finance department, which I understand if that's the case, but the finance department and others of the general fund should also reimburse the enterprise funds. In the case of the community reinvestment, there are so many personnel resources now coming out of that budget that it is the single largest item of expenditures. There's over $450,000 of personnel expenses getting charged to a fund that was set up to not have personnel expenditures coming out of it. There's only $400,000 allocated for dumping fees and less than that for community investment. So the community investment fund and what the citizens were told when that 0.25% sales tax was passed wasn't that we were going to load it up with more people and their benefit costs, is that we were going to change the neighborhoods. And while I'll certainly acknowledge we're seeing more demolitions than we had previously, we never had $25 million handed to us either. There shouldn't be neighborhoods filled with delinquent and dilapidated houses so that we could build a pool to lose another $1 million every 3 years. The next item that I would touch base on is the City Hall project. I disagree. My understanding is the building you acquired has some of the similar problems you have here in this building, and it's a much larger building. This is more than ample for the city. I would certainly hope you don't tear it down. This building was acquired and never occupied by the city because they put a business in it. They offered it to Blue Cross Blue Shield. That's what brought them to town. How about if we use some innovative thoughts like that to bring businesses into this building? This building is never going to fall down. Do not tear it down. I'm glad to see the Breezy is finally coming down. That's a good sign. The other items I will get into more detail at a future time, but I do think that those are all relevant, and I think that where funds were set up and taxpayers were told of specific uses, that should be adhered to. It appears there's probably approaching $1 million in personnel costs being charged to enterprise funds that wasn't the case not so long ago. That doesn't benefit the citizens. We're expanding the size of city government while our population is shrinking. Those two things don't work together. And so that needs to take place. The next item then is regarding the property tax levy itself. While the mayor has indicated he has reduced property taxes by utilizing the casino funds through the general fund to supplement the tax levy, the fact is now that's the only money coming out of the general fund. It's not in addition to what was already coming out. It's the only money coming out of the general fund that is providing for that transfer. That should change. I see we're trying to implement a local grocery tax with very little public notice and information. I would hope you would reconsider that until you have some clarity on where these things are going. I see we've added a couple more code enforcement officers that was stated by the mayor to specifically address rental properties. But I don't see where the rental registrations are paying for that. So are there other taxpayers expected to cover the tab for the fact that landlords need a higher level of attention? That should be going to the landlords. It shouldn't be passed on to the taxpayers in general. Those are businesses they're running. The additional item is related to transparency, and I didn't see where the cannabis tax is going. Is that considered in the other revenue of the general fund? That I don't know, and once again, I can follow up on that. But I would strongly suggest the casino revenue should be set up in a separate fund so that it's very transparent where those dollars are going. And to roll them into the general fund and then roll them back out as though the general fund is making a contribution to pensions is not transparent. It's not. And just be honest with the citizens. You're using all of the casino proceeds to pay employee benefits, despite the fact that the two chairmen of the committees were in some of those meetings where it was discussed. The focus should be on community improvements. So with that, there's obviously more in the detail, but I won't belabor the point this evening. The other and last question is, have you all been provided the information that I suggested you should have by the administration on how much your ward contributes in the various categories of the property taxes? And Mayor, has that been provided, or is that going to be provided?
I don't recall that request, but we certainly can. It's not hard.
I was here about a month ago indicating that, and so
The
that should be
alderman request
provided.
that information. I'm sure I'd be happy to provide it to them. So
Okay, thank you.
thank you,
And
Mr.
I'll
Arts.
speak under audience comments on that.
That's the only card I have, Mayor.
Is there anyone who wishes to speak about the proposed budget and tax levy? All right, at this time, I will then close the hearing. There were a number of things that were stated which weren't quite accurate, but rather than address them this evening, I'll make sure that we take some time to respond and reflect and respond for next time. At this time, Madam Clerk, we will receive our petitions, communications, and audience comments.
Thank you, Mayor. Has everyone had a chance to complete a yellow audience comment card who wishes to speak? Do you know where to find them? Okay. Okay, thank you. When I call your name, please come to the podium. You have 3 minutes to speak. First, I have Carolyn Burke, 1807 North Gilbert of Danville, regarding property cleanup and damage.
Thank you very much for allowing me to address this number. I first of all would like to say that I very much appreciate my Alderman Jim Pichard, who has basically been at my home several times and has spoken to me on numerous occasions. I happen to be in an area where they've been putting new sidewalks and making things handicap accessible, which is obviously very necessary for many people. However, in doing so, they have damaged my yard. All along the front of my yard and I have inquired several times as to when this would be taken care of. Mainly, it needs to be seeded, and they also have damaged plants on the corner of my property, of which, when the contractor was there, I was asked if they could possibly remove part of my yuccas in order to be able to complete their construction, and I agreed with that. I was there when they removed it, and I had no problem with that. I have a problem with the fact that when they did the sidewalk on running east and west on the near my property, they actually, I guess, in getting preparation to lay concrete for that particular area of the sidewalk, they just threw dirt and concrete and bricks and everything into my yuccas in the corner. I find that very disturbing, and I would very much appreciate knowing when they are going to take care of the seeding and put my property back the way it was. My husband and I, my husband is deceased now, he was a master gardener, and I have gardened since I was probably 5 years old, and I have always taken pride in trying to keep my property up well. And this is just very upsetting to me. And again, I appreciate you listening, and thank you again, Jim, for everything that you have done to try to help me. I very much appreciate it. You are a super guy, and I'm very happy that you are the alderman in my area. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Burke. We'll be sure to follow up with you this week.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Lloyd S. Randolph, 2706 Townway of Danville, regarding traffic stop data review.
Thank you. Good evening, alderpersons. Once again, my name is Lloyd Randall, and I reside at 2706 Townway. It was on March 29th in 2023 that I came before this body to make a formal request to meet with the appropriate members of this administration to begin a dialogue to establish a framework that would lead to an agreement that would cause an independent scientific review and analysis of all the facts related to the disparity in traffic and pedestrian stops of Black citizens. And it was on July 18th in 2003 that Senate Bill 30 was signed into law, establishing a statewide study about traffic stops to identify racial bias. Now, Illinois legislators extended that data collection to include pedestrian stops, and that's now known as Public Act 101-0024, and that took effect in 2019. Now, data collected that's required by law, that is self-reported by the Danville Police Department, which is entered into the Illinois Department of Transportation data collection system, clearly indicates that there's a disparity in traffic and pedestrian stops. And it's related to African Americans based on the percentage of the population of our city. Now, I come before you again this evening to formally request an independent scientific analysis of this data that's directly related to the disparity in traffic and pedestrian stops. And I also again ask for the opportunity to meet with the appropriate members of this administration to begin a conversation that will of course establish a commission and a framework to review all of the findings that are discovered in that independent review of that data. I want to close with this. We've talked about this enough, I think. So each one of you has, as a constituency, citizens who have been or who are potentially affected by this issue. And this is really about equity in policing. It's about fairness. You can't have one group of people being a smaller percentage of your population, but yet be stopped more than other subgroups in your community. So I'm gravely concerned about the lack of the sense of urgency around the pedestrian stops because the evidence is clear. And I want to let you know that we, including myself, we are all complicit in issues that I think tear at the fabric of our humanity. This is a demoralizing issue for people who are being stopped. And this issue, of course, is bigger than all of us. And I think that we are all duty bound to address egregious acts against one another. So I think it's time to put the issue to rest. And I want to, again, reach out to the city and ask for them to meet with me and members of my team to talk about a process moving forward. And if you have any questions, I want to give you an opportunity to call me. Unfortunately, it is my deceased daughter's birthday today, and we are having a prayer meeting, and I have to run off to that because I am the only one that's not there. So my number is 217-597-0593, and I would love to have an opportunity to share additional comments that I don't have time for this evening. So thank you once again.
Thank you, Mr. Randall.
Doug Arns of Danville regarding open council seat and transparency.
Thank you. It's my understanding Alderman York may not be able to fulfill his entire term, thereby vacating the seat when and if that becomes necessary. Obviously, as one of the two candidates, I would be very interested in that. However, I would also agree that perhaps the most ethical approach would be to appoint neither of us, to not try to influence the election that's coming up. I would certainly be understanding and supportive of that. However, I would also ask that if the mayor does choose to consider either of the two candidates for that office, that a portion of that interview process be conducted in a public forum so that the Ward 7 residents can see and hear what the decision will be based upon who will take that seat. That's a best practice that's followed by other communities, including those just to the west of it, for both the community and the alderman to be able to interact with any potential aldermanic candidates. So with that, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Arns.
Deontay Brooks of Danville.
I would like to talk about equity in policing also. So the police were dispatched to my house just a couple of days ago. Officer shows up to my house and he says the GPS sent him there. And I was like, well, we didn't call the police. He doesn't have on a body camera. He doesn't have on a vest. He doesn't have on his lights or sirens. They didn't send EMS or anything to my house to make sure that I was okay. So why was he there? And it's confusing to me. I just said I didn't call the police and he left. No call up, no checkup, nothing. And that is not right. That is not how we should be policed on the East End. Because I could, whatever it was that they came out for, why didn't they check up on it? But they were at my house. So I want it to be equal and I want it to be fair. And I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, Mr. Brooks.
That's all I have.
Is there anyone else who wishes to address the council this evening? If not, item number 9 is zoning petitions. This time there are none. Is there a motion to approve the payrolls of November 8th and 15th of 2024?
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion or debate? Roll call vote, please.
Vice Mayor Teague,
Yes.
Alderman Williams,
Yes.
York,
Yes.
Cooper,
Yes.
Butler,
Yes.
Johnson, Wands,
Yes.
Bouchard,
Yes.
O'Kane,
Yes.
Iverson,
Yes.
Four,
Yes.
Streebing,
Yes.
Pickering,
Yes.
Ludwig,
Yes.
13 yes.
13 yes, the motion carries. We have before you the vouchers payable of November 12th and 19th. Is there a motion to approve those?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion or debate? Roll call vote, please.
Alderman Williams,
Yes.
York,
Yes.
Cooper,
Yes.
Butler,
Yes.
Wilson, Wands,
Yes.
Pashard,
Yes.
O'Kane,
Yes.
Iverson,
Yes.
Ford,
Yes.
Streebing,
Yes.
Pickering,
Yes.
Ludwig,
Yes.
Teague,
Yes.
13 yes.
13 yes, the motion carries. At this time, we'll receive our Public Works Committee report. Chairman Ford.
Thank you, Mayor. 12A is a resolution extending the ADA paratransit service agreement with Chris Rural Mass Transit. Move to dispense the read and ask for your approval. Need a second.
Second.
Any questions? Okay, roll call, please.
Alderman York,
Yes.
Cooper,
Yes.
Butler,
Yes.
Wilson, Wands,
Yes. Yes.
Pashard,
Yes.
O'Kane,
Yes.
Iverson,
Yes.
Ford,
Yes.
Streebing,
Yes.
Pickering,
Yes.
Ludwig,
Yes.
Teague,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
13 yes.
13 yes, the motion carries.
12B is an ordinance vacating an alley or part thereof pursuant to Chapter 30 of the City Code for Michelle R. Jones, petitioner at 7 Wisconsin Street. Move to dispense the read and ask for your approval. Need a second.
Second.
Did we get the language in there about allowing the neighbors access, or?
No, I believe that was worked out between the petitioner and the neighbor.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was the only problem at the Public Works was an agreement, and they've reached that, so, any questions? Okay, roll call, please.
Alderman Cooper,
Yes.
Butler,
Yes.
Wilson, Wands,
No.
Pashard,
No.
O'Kane,
Yes.
Iverson,
Yes.
Ford,
Yes.
Streebing,
Yes.
Pickering,
Yes.
Ludwig,
No.
Teague,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
York,
Yes.
10 yes.
10 yes. Moving on, if there's no objection, I'd like to take 12C and 12D together. They're both ordinances approving the purchase of real estate for community improvements. C is 605 and 615 North Vermillion Street. D is 131 North Vermillion Street. No objection. We'll need a second. Move to dispense read and ask for your approval. Need a second.
Second.
Questions? Alderman Cooper.
Yeah. Give me history on both these. I guess let's go with the one on North Million first.
Yeah.
We're paying $35,000 for a property that needs to be demoed.
Yeah.
Why?
The property owner approached the city, and to be quite honest with you, personally, I've been staring at this property in fear of the stack and its collapse for several years. That was the number that we ended up negotiating for, $35,000, and I believe you're asking why. Why are we taking care of this blight for the property owner? I wish I had a firm answer to describe the frustrations of city staff, and I'm sure the residents as well. Basically, the city bailing out property owners. We've had many, many discussions, the mayor, legal counsel, and I. There is no real liability other than liens that we have discovered at this time. I wish we could figure out a way to form a state law that can help us refund the amount for the acquisition / blight removal, but we have not discovered that at this time. So for the benefit of the public, especially in this case, this is a perfectly developable plot of land. We're bringing this forth to remove the danger to the public. I don't have a good answer to give you on, yeah.
I understand that, and somebody's owned this property, and apparently it's been in shambles for how long? A few years?
I believe, yeah, I would say the last decade.
So, I mean, what is the city's role in that? Have we wrote them up for ordinance violations and all that?
I believe there has been code violations at least within the last couple of years. I can't speak back to the decade.
And what's the outcome of that? I mean, we just write them up, and if you pay, you pay. If you don't, you don't. And we're just, we'll bail you out, and that's exactly what we're doing.
We'll keep going around and around, and the landowners typically don't pay the fines on these properties. And unless they're in a condemned state, there cannot be a demo order provided.
And the same thing is going to happen to the one on 131 North Million, apparently, too. Am I right or wrong?
Essentially, it would be cheaper to acquire the structure than to fix it. I believe the building owner commented in the newspaper recently that the building is not worth saving.
And because we own the buildings next door and have for, I'd say a decade probably or better, that need to be demolished, when the roof collapsed on them, it exposed how bad the south wall of this building is. The reason we were there in the first place is we had water infiltration, or not we, but the building owners to the north had water infiltration going into a very active and productive business. And so our code enforcers were inspecting it. That's when we found that the roof on our property had collapsed. When we pushed it in, you could see just how bad the roof, the wall on the south part of this building was.
But the one that,
If we tear this down and there's any damage to this wall, we'll be right back where we were with the This Is It furniture building on North Main Street when we demolished that building and then had to spend $100,000+ to fix the wall and remove the parking lot along that building. So it's cheaper for us to buy it and tear it down than it is to try to fix it, especially because it's in such bad condition.
well, how long did the city own that property just to the south of what we're purchasing?
At least for several years before I became mayor, and I've been mayor for 6 years, so I would say probably a decade.
Why did we let it get to that shape, or did we let it get to that shape? I mean, if
It was already in bad shape, and we required it under the tax sale under the previous administration. Like I said, we've owned it at least a decade, I would say. And the problem has always been just this, that it's connected to other buildings that are in active use. And what kind of impact is that going to have on those other buildings?
So the 131 North Main is not salvageable, or, I mean,
It's salvageable for an extraordinary amount of money that the building is not worth.
I guess my concern is sitting in this chair is how many more buildings in Danville or along Vermillion Street downtown could be in that type of shape? Has anybody looked at, I mean, you look at the old Sears building.
Yeah.
What do we know about that? I mean,
Everything that we can, we're actively monitoring. We've had in court. We could give you a litany. We've been in that building. I've been in that building twice myself. So I mean, I could give you an update. The staff could give you an update on some of those buildings, but probably not all of them.
We do. Can I guarantee 100% of the buildings have been assessed, especially inside? No. But we have a really close eye on at least what we would consider the bigger structures downtown.
Well, we're going to have to, or we're going to lose it.
Agreed.
I mean, and that's all there is to it. And I do have a problem with bailing out an owner on his mistakes.
I agree, and I do too.
And that's what's going on, and it's just got to stop. I mean, we're getting on the homeowners, we're writing them up for violations, and we're taking them to court and everything, and we're pressing them, but you got a business here, I mean, we'll let you slide.
No, we've done the same thing actually to the homeowners, and unfortunately the strategy for years and years and years was to fine them. You never get any fines, and then guess what? The citizens continue to look at the dumps for another decade or more, and it continues to lower the property values in their neighborhoods. It continues to bring vermin into their neighborhoods and pests. It continues to bring people who are doing all kinds of illegal things, and we take it to them too. What I would tell you is we've been far more aggressive than we ever have in terms of code enforcement and code violation in a long time, and we're making progress, but there are still people that are outliers that get around it.
Yeah, and I wish there was a way to stop that.
Well, we're always actively working on it, but we have not discovered that as of yet. I mean, we have taken additional steps. So, for example, I forget the name of the program, but so forever we put liens on a property. But if there's a terrible property that you tear down, nobody's going to buy it unless it's in a great location, right? And there's no environmental issues. So what happens? You put a lien on the property. Oh, well, it does you nothing. You spent $150 to put a lien on it to get nothing back. And so what we've been doing is there's something called iDrop that you can't have a lien on a property, but if there is a property where you could put a lien, instead you can submit it to iDrop. And if that individual or that business receives any kind of tax refund from the state of Illinois, then we're able to reclaim those dollars. So we have been doing that as often as we can as well. But the thing is, it's a hurry up and wait. So wait, we waited 10, 12, 14 years to tear down these small buildings that we own, right? Now that's part of the problem that's created with this other building at Chart Records, So all I can tell you is that we're aggressive. We're being creative in the solutions that we have, and we're getting it where we can,
Well, and I just hope the rest of the buildings are being inspected where we're not running into this situation all the time. And that, it is a concern because, the building I just stated, that's a concern there. And there's a couple others downtown too. And
well, you can look through the old JCPenney building and you can look up in the window and see the sky through
there we go.
The problem is that things were allowed to dilapidate for so long that now we're playing catch up, and many of the buildings, unfortunately, are past saving.
Well, then I think we need to play hardball with them.
And we are. So if you have any other suggestions for options that we're
Well,
not,
I
would certainly entertain those.
Vice Mayor Teague.
I think that one of the unintended consequences of this approach is that it kind of encourages delinquent property owners to just hold on to the building for dear life and know that eventually the city is going to come and bail them out. And I don't know what the remedy to that is, but I can see that happening. And I mean, and what's happening with, a couple of these buildings is that's pretty much what has happened. Chart Records has been next to this building that the city has owned for how long? The city has owned it for at least 6 to 10 years. And if this building was in bad shape, a month ago, it was probably in better shape 10 years ago. But if we just hold on long enough, the city will come and take care of it, and I'm off scot-free. That is a serious problem, and it seems as if we are inadvertently encouraging that behavior. So that's my concern. I don't know what the answer to that is. I got to think about it longer, but that is what I see as a problem.
Alderman. If I can just provide, and yes, I hope that's not true, but commonly what we're seeing is it's not the city bailing them out. Even if we are fining them and taking them to court for not maintaining their properties, they won't show up to court, they won't pay their fines, and then they'll just let it go back to the tax trustee, and then it will be the city's problem.
Again, it falls on the citizens. It's at the end of the day, it falls on us as taxpayers.
Yes, and then within that same vein, if it does fall back to the county, why are we purchasing the house, the building now? Say we're actually paying for it, and I kind of think, like Cooper said, that we setting this up as a precedence of buying these dilapidated houses or buildings. And if we do it for one, we should be doing it for the rest of them.
I just hope that we'll remember this same philosophy when there are other huge monsters in town that have to come down.
Well, I just hope we don't get to that point where they are coming to that.
We already have a lot of them, Alderman, unfortunately.
That's what I figured. Then the question, the property on North Main 605, there's a possibility of contamination on that also, where we're going to have to, is the brownfield money going to be used on that?
Yeah, if we can. It is in the Midtown TIF district, so that is an eligible use out of the TIF, and we will be doing our due diligence if it is approved for acquisition, at least a phase 1, and if not a phase 2 for soil borings, to see if it's contaminated. Obviously, if we see things that are far, far beyond our means of contamination, we will address it at that point. There is due diligence built into the purchase agreement. We will not go and close if this is approved tonight, next week. So there will be due diligence built into this, but you're right. It is a risk. It is a liability. We will have it tested to remove us from the chain of liability if that is the case. But we'll take our time on this property.
When do you want it to be down?
I'm hopeful that we close by the end of December, if approved tonight, and get it out to bid weeks to follow after closing.
early 25?
Yeah.
Mid 25?
Yeah.
And if we don't find a buyer for it, or I guess it's right next door to that Red Mass, can we work with them, help them out with a little bit of that or not? I mean, Mayor, I'm sure I'm gonna have to address that too, but.
They've already approached us multiple times about the need for additional parking for their facility, so it would be something possible for us to explore.
Okay.
Vice Mayor.
Is there a list of commercial properties that the city already owns that we could get? Because I know that we have a variety of lists for a variety of reasons. I also know that we've had buildings that just got torn down because of fire that we have owned for a long time, and we own this property next to Chart Record for a long time. So now we're about to acquire another property that's up on North Vermillion Street, and with plans to tear it down when we didn't necessarily have publicly known plans. I can't say we didn't have plans. I'm just saying I didn't know about them. Plans to tear down the building on Main Street, or plans to tear down this other building on Vermillion Street that caused the problems at Chart Record. So if we've had that building for 10 years, I'm assuming that there must be other buildings that we own that are commercial. Could we see a list of what those buildings are and the priority for tear downs for those buildings? Because it seems like what's happening at 605 and 615 might be jumping the list a little bit. If we're planning to tear that down in 25, but we had other buildings standing for 10 years that we haven't torn down?
Yeah. We can provide that list to you, and then provide probably a justification for why some sit for as long as they do. Obviously, the one on North Vermillion is a little bit different, why it's a priority. It became a public risk. And then different funding sources. Not all of them are in TIF districts, so we don't have the funds. So yeah, we can justify each one and let you know. Yep.
Thank you. That would be helpful.
Yep.
Vice Mayor, I would say I don't think we have many commercial properties, honestly. Now, we have the right to demolish some commercial properties, such as the old Studio 25 on Walnut Street, but we don't necessarily own them. We have a right to demolish through court order many more, I would say more commercial properties than we actually own ourselves. So those would be two different things. Also, in Main Street, were you referring to the old model Star Laundry?
Yes.
That's something that we discussed multiple times, and it had been set aside for Bridge Tower, with Brizzy Tower. Any additional money set aside from that after that's torn down was to be used for that Studio 25 and this building, this 129 that just collapsed on us as well.
Okay.
Alderman Butler.
And so I'm trying to get an understanding now. So we get ready to buy this building for this amount. Is there a cost for demolition?
Yeah.
Junk fee. Yeah. I didn't see that in.
This is the purchase of the buyer.
Oh, you're right. It's the purchase. Yeah.
Purchase.
But we got to still pay to have it demoed.
Right.
And do we know what that cost is?
No, that will likely return back to council. Both of these will have to be publicly bid. And then for the buildings that surround the Chart Records building, there's going to have to be assessments made for likely repairs to the common walls that are adjacent to those buildings. So those will return back to council through the bid process.
Anyone else? Okay, roll call please on C and D.
Alderman Butler,
No.
Wilson, Wands,
Yes.
Richard,
Yes.
O'Kane,
Yes.
Iverson,
Yes.
Hoare,
Yes.
Streebing,
No.
Pickering,
Yes.
Ludwig,
Yes.
Teague,
No.
Williams,
No.
York,
Yes.
Cooper,
Oh, boy. No.
8 yes.
8 yes. Motion passes. 12E is an ordinance amending Chapter 163 of the Rental Housing Registration of the Danville City Code. This is amended. I move to dispense reading, ask for your approval. Need a second.
Second.
Okay, questions? Alderman Cooper.
It's the only one I've got. This is going to be the Sandy. And Sandy, we went through that ordeal with that one person, does this address all that?
Yes, it does.
So, and you're comfortable with it? It's got the quote
Well,
unquote
there's
thief?
one thing I want to make sure that we understand is that once a retaliation case has been established against the landlord, I just want to make sure that the legal department has some type of time frame on moving on that type of case. Once that case was a retaliation case,
Right.
and in the ordinance, there are time frames for other situations. But in this ordinance, it does not specifically say when the legal department will act on a retaliation case once it has been established that it is a retaliation case against the landlord.
And that's a good point, and I think that does need to be addressed. I think that should be put in that ordinance.
What are you referring to?
The retaliation.
Yeah, what section?
That would, under the penalty, it should be under the penalty section. Here it is right here, okay.
Do you have it in front of you? Can you give me that site, please?
Okay, it was 16310.
Is it subsection D? On the wrongful retaliation against a tenant.
What section is it, Vice Mayor?
Might be.
E under 16310?
16310.
Okay, yeah, inspections.
16310B?
D as in dog.
Oh, D?
Okay, D, yes. It talks about the fine amount between 1,000 and 5,000. I know when we met, we debated about that amount, but there isn't a time frame in which once a retaliation case has been, that there is evidence for a retaliation case, how soon will the legal department act on the retaliation case? And I know that once a person does get a 30-day notice, they don't have to move out of the house. Once they get the notice, the only time you have to move is under the judge's order. But in the meantime, how soon would the legal department act on a clear case of a violation of retaliation by the landlord? And I feel like it needs to be stated under D.
Okay.
I'm sorry, sir.
Well, yeah, I think it has to be within 7 days. I mean, I see these evictions every week. These people.
I don't know that 16310D, we address retaliation if in fact it's found to be retaliation. Are you talking about punitive actions?
Yeah, I'm talking about legal action by the legal department, because you are the ones who are going to have to take the case to our municipal court or to regular court, wherever you take it. So once it has been established that there is a retaliation case against the landlord, how soon are you gonna move on going after the landlord?
Okay, Ms. Finch, you were part of this committee that drafted this?
Yes.
So I'm a little confused by you not understanding it, but.
No, that's not true. I do understand this, and I brought this to your attention in an email.
No, it's true. I don't understand. I am confused by it. That is true.
I mean, what are you confused by?
Well, I'm confused by what you're asking. We do address punitive actions. Are you talking about 16308C?
No, I'm talking about the fines, like 16310, it says it's under penalties, and it's D.
Mm-hmm.
It says 16310, penalties for violations. We have, if you go at the beginning of the ordinance, it talks about how many days the landlord has to act on a code enforcement issue, those type of things.
What section are you reading from?
I'm giving you a prelude of what I'm talking about. There are time frames set for other issues in this ordinance.
Mm-hmm.
So under D, under 16310D, there needs to be a time frame in which the city will act upon a violation by a landlord who has retaliated against a tenant for filing a code enforcement complaint. There's no time frame in this ordinance as to when the legal department will act.
Administrator Finch, what I would say is you have to first establish a retaliation.
Exactly.
So that whatever time frame that would take in court, I think that's probably the more pressing thing is how do you, in what time frame do you establish retaliation, not the penalty part, because if you,
Mayor, there needs to be a time frame in this ordinance. We've already established there would be a fine, okay, for retaliation. But there isn't, like for instance, like the one case that I received that Alderman Cooper referred to me. After the lady filed the code enforcement complaint, the landlord was issued violations for the code enforcement issues. Then he turned around and he charged her, based on the information that I received, for the repairs.
yes, we're all familiar with that, Administrator.
Okay, so then, based on that situation, because after that, if she didn't pay
So
the damage fees,
they would have to, after that, they would have to go to court to establish that there was in fact retaliation. So is that your question, is when?
That's not what we said at the meeting.
Oh, no.
That's not what we said at the meeting. What we said at the meeting when we had this conversation was, if the landlord then retaliated again, then the tenant, it was a brand new case and a brand new complaint on the retaliation, but it has to be established that there was retaliation. What D says is if an owner is found to have wrongfully retaliated, therefore, in my mind, D is already established that we've already evaluated the case and that we've already determined that there was retaliation. The question, I believe, that Ms. Finch, I'm sorry, Ms. Finch. I was about to say Ms. Houston. It's my phone, you're Houston. That Ms. Finch is bringing up is that once we have done that, then what are we telling our tenant in terms of how we're supporting them and what we're providing for them? Because we established at the meeting that we would go to the court on the tenant's behalf to say that we have an active case. And we would go to the court on the tenant's behalf if there was retaliation to now say there were two cases. There was the initial complaint in the event that the retaliation is as a result of the tenant's complaint, because sometimes the retaliation isn't as a result of a tenant's complaint. Sometimes the retaliation in the case that I brought up to, that I referred to Ms. Finch, was the landlord did something as a result of a code violation that the tenant never even reported. And then the tenant was charged, and then there was retaliation after that. But whatever the source of the original issue, if there's a retaliation, what was said in the meeting was that we would go to court and tell the judge on behalf of the tenant that we have an active case against the landlord for retaliation. Right. And I think Ms. Finch's question is, what is a time frame for that? Because if the owner has given them a 5 to 10 day notice, then you've got a clock running.
Right, exactly.
Okay, I believe this was addressed in an email to everybody. So you're talking about 16310D, owner's wrongful retaliation against a tenant. So you're right, if an owner has been found to wrongfully retaliated against a tenant, that's being addressed. Now, it states before the owner issued a 5-day, 10-day notice or a 30-day notice, you can be found to have retaliated against a tenant, and you can still issue a 5-day, 10-day, or 30-day notice, because a 5-day is for failure to pay rent. A 10-day is failure to comply with a condition of the lease, and 30-day is just terminating a month-to-month, or in some cases, a yearly lease that's extended. So that's not, that's a separate issue. An owner can still do that if you're not paying rent or not complying with your lease. So in the email that I sent around to everybody, I didn't get any response or any questions to it, but in that email I explained this, and I also pointed out that if there is some court proceeding for a 5, 10, or 30-day notice, the city can, as a friend of the court, show up at that hearing and advise the court that we do have a city case pending with this owner and tenant, and we can ask them to allow the city case to proceed before they act on any case that's filed in circuit court, that's where a 5, 10, or 30-day notice would proceed.
But that was not in the
Corporation Counsel,
email.
I'm sorry, Administrator, Corporation Counsel, and then I recalled that when we discussed this, that you said we cannot determine by the circuit court when that court case is going to be. So we couldn't put a date in here because
Correct.
we are not the ones who are going to be able to determine that. It would actually be an order that's taken over at the circuit court, not here.
Correct.
But we would show up on behalf of our citizens and
Yes.
and do the friend of the order brief.
Friend of the court,
Friend of the
and just
court, I meant
to
to say,
advise the
sorry.
court that we do have proceedings in city court that we're addressing, but we would have no control over proceedings for a 5, 10, and 30-day. That'd be in circuit court.
So to answer your question, Alderman Cooper, we cannot insert a date because we don't determine when that date will be. The court will determine date will be. It's not our decision.
And there's 100% guarantee that somebody from our legal department's gonna be going to the court and defending these people.
Not defending them, no. We're not going to
Or
defend anyone.
postponing, they're postponing it.
We would write a friend of the court brief and or appearance. We would appear before them saying, this is still going on, we believe this is retaliation. But we would not represent them, no, absolutely not.
I don't know if that'd work in the court of law or not. I don't know if a judge would accept that, but
I guess what the question is how quickly we would actually evaluate the retaliation complaint.
That's what I said.
Right.
That was, yeah, yes. That's, which is different than this question.
May I add that in reference to your case, Alderman Cooper, the woman was charged for the repairs, which is, I don't know whether or not she even had a lease at that time.
yes, she did.
Okay, well, she had a lease, and I don't believe that those items, the 10-day notice about the damage repairs that she had to pay for code enforcement repairs was in her lease. I doubt that was in her lease if there were code enforcement issues and she had to pay for them, and that's why she got the 10-day notice.
Well, we can't assume what is and isn't in any individual's lease. And if there are provisions in that lease, they have to comply. And if they don't, that's a civil matter.
We understand that, so then why do we have this ordinance then? If we're not going to go after the landlord for retaliation, then why do we have this ordinance?
Administrator Finch, we are going after the landlord for retaliation. It's very clear that we're going after the landlord for retaliation.
So I have a question. So in the instance with this particular case, let's say the lease does not say that the tenant is responsible for paying for code enforcement violations. So if we concluded that the tenant was retaliated against, then that landlord would be subject to this fine, correct?
Correct. Whatever this ordinance provides, if it's a code violation, yes. And if it's something that the owner has failed to comply with or an act the owner has committed, but we can't arbitrarily just say you've done it. There's got to be a process.
No, understood.
Okay.
Yes, I'm saying if we had actually concluded
Yes.
that the owner was in violation, then the owner would then be subject to the fine, right?
To the penalty, yes.
But then as it relates to the other portions of the ordinance where the owner then is responsible for the tenant's move, would that apply or no?
Yeah, I mean, I know there's different provisions here. We could address those if you'd like, but yes, if it's in this ordinance and in your scenario, if it applies, then yes.
Over your.
But then it would be the responsibility of the tenant to file a civil suit to recoup the funds that she or he had to pay towards the rent, the
move?
property owner? Yeah, is
Well,
that's my understanding?
If it's a violation of our code and and an owner is subject to the penalties we have here, then we would enforce that.
Okay, but then that's separate then from the costs. So then the tenant would then be responsible for initiating a civil suit to recoup that money.
Yeah, if it's something that the lease addresses, then yes, it would be a civil matter, and they're going to have to either represent themselves or hire an attorney.
Gotcha.
So it also says that here, though, if you go further on in on E, the next part where it talks about inspections, and it talks about they would have to return the tenant's security deposit, they'd have to return the tenant's advance rental payment outstanding, and they would have to reimburse the tenant for tenant's actual costs of moving to a new location, so long as a move was undertaken, etc. They would have to reverse any utility deposits the tenant incurs in connection with moving to another rental dwelling. So there are a host of things if they mess over one of our people that they're going to have to pay.
Exactly. And if we're going to have to pay, are they given a time to do this, or is it immediate? I mean, if they're given a time, I mean, you're paying these renters. Somebody's got a couple $1,000s in there. A $2,000 hit on them is going to be, pretty extensive.
It's in
it needs to be immediate payment.
subsection. Hold on, let me scroll, tell you where I'm at.
Well, some of it's in C3, where they have 21 days to pay, and if they don't, the mayor does have the authority to revoke the owner's rental dwellings certificates for that affected dwelling. So if it's revoked, they can't have a tenant in there.
And it also says, in any and all such return and or reimbursement in subsection G, any and all such return and or reimbursement of money shall be made to the tenant within 3 business days following the tenant's first request or demand of such refunds and or reimbursements.
That's E, that's 16310 E2G, so that everybody knows where we are.
On page 15, correct. Thank you, Vice Mayor.
So again, I'm going to ask Sandy, are you happy with this or not? Because you're the one who's going to be dealing with this ordinance all the way through.
I think there should be a time frame, because if there isn't a time frame, then the tenant, just like you said, I mean, if they're waiting on the legal department to act on an established with evidence to support, just like this one case, there's got to be a time frame in which the legal department will, once that person receives that 10-day notice to pay for the damage fees for code enforcement repairs, and evidence is there that is retaliation, when will the legal department act on this situation?
Okay, I'm going to make a motion to table this thing for 30 days until that's resolved. So
I'll second.
Okay, so motion on the floor to table the 12H for 30 days, which would be the
I'm sorry,
first
12D,
12, what did I say?
It's E.
Oh, 12E, 12E. Table 12E until the, would be the second full city council meeting in December?
Yes.
If I could just add that that would push back the registration period. We have letters that need to go out tomorrow to the owners to register their property for next year, 25. I believe it's addressed. I would encourage everybody to read it closely, but if you choose to table it, just be aware that it's going to push back. We won't be able to send out our letters with the new application fee, which, among other things, requires the registration of the properties and consents. Each owner consents by registering, consents to inspection.
Well, we were late last year, right?
by about 3 weeks, 4 weeks. I don't think holding this up for a couple weeks is gonna make that big of a deal. We got through it last year, and we dealt with that same thing with the toters.
We have a registration period, that it is gonna hold it up, but, I think a careful reading of what we've prepared, and when I say we, if I could just mention that, this committee consisted of the mayor, Vice Mayor Teague, Alderwoman Pickering, Assistant Corporate Counsel Dollenberg, Inspector Kenny Harden, Legal Assistants Becky Beto and Karen Walklaw, and Ms. Finch.
Well, instead of tabling it, isn't there another solution? We could pass it and amend this if we see that this does not work? Because we do need to get this out. And we can all, like I said, we could amend it. If we find out this doesn't work, we can amend it, or we can amend it at our next meeting.
I think what's been raised regarding a time period, we're talking about two different things. The city does provide for the process for retaliation, but the 5, 10, and 30-day notice, I think, is maybe confusing some individuals, and that's separate. We can proceed on a retaliation. We do have a process for that. I thought that was...
What's the time frame then on a retaliation? You gonna wait 10 days, 30 days?
No, it's the 5, 10, and 30-day, those are other matters. That doesn't have to do with retaliation. The city can proceed on a retaliation.
But how soon are you gonna proceed on that? Because I sure hate to see somebody who waits for our court here for 2 or 3 weeks and then you throw them in there. That's wrong.
What do you mean?
Movement ahead of the line so they can be heard.
Oh, they can be expedited, yes. We can expedite that in the legal department, but there has to be a process because if we get a complaint and somebody alleges I've been retaliated against, we have to look into that. Okay, now we can expedite that, but just stating you've been retaliated against doesn't make it so. Okay, we got to be fair to everybody involved. Okay, so we can expedite that, but 5, 10, and 30-day notices, that's going to be something for the circuit court to determine. And as I stated, if we have something pending in city court, we can, as a friend of the court, we could show up at that hearing on a 5, 10, 30-day, and we could advise the court, we have a pending retaliation case, we'd like to resolve that. And we would ask that they continue that. Now, it happens, that's not such a unique thing to do, okay? I just can't guarantee you what any judge is gonna do at any time. But I can tell you, we have a process for dealing with retaliation.
What I would like to say to you all is I really appreciate everyone's effort. I know this is a very hard thing, but I want to tell you I'm very proud. This has been a problem since well before not only I was mayor, but before I was alderman. And I really appreciate the effort that everyone, Administrator Finch, Corporation Counsel, all of our team, Vice Mayor, Alderwoman Pickering. I really appreciate the effort everyone is taking to take care of our people, because that's the bottom line here in the end, is that we got to make sure that we take care of our residents who are being subject to slumlords right now, and also not just those residents, but to protect the neighborhoods where people live as well. That's something that we've been working hard. That's something that we've needed to do for a long time that's never been done, and I'm proud of the fact that you all are working so hard to get it right. It means a lot to our people. It means a lot to our people. It means a lot to our community, and it also means a lot, honestly, to the good landlords, because quite frankly, they get sick of being slammed in with the people that don't take care of their property. So I appreciate the fact that you all have worked so hard to create something that's not only fair to our tenants, but also to our landlords.
Okay, there is a motion, a second on the floor to table this for 30 days.
I just have one thing to say. It's my opinion that tabling this will prolong the benefits to our citizens, and I think we need to go ahead and pass this. And that because 30 days from now is too long, we need to let this go tonight, and then we can make an amendment to this later. Because our citizens need this. That's my opinion.
This first started getting discussed as far as the rental registration program in 1994, 1995. That's when the Danville Area Landlords Association started being formed. So this has been ongoing for 30 years. The language has changed quite a bit in that time. We went from requiring internal inspections then to doing away with them. We required certificates of occupancy, did away with those, and now it's coming back to some of the same language that was in originally. That was always, always needed to be in there. I think this does address many of the concerns. It's something that's always going to be changed as circumstances change around our community. And we have no control over circuit court on what they decide. 5, 10, and 30-day notices are not our law. We have no control over what the legislature says we need to do. So, if you want to postpone it, we can call for the question on that.
Just for clarification, Chairman, a yes vote on the amendment would be to postpone a vote on this until the second council meeting in December. A no vote would be to not postpone it.
Right.
Chairman, I think.
Okay, Vice Mayor T.
I do agree that we do not have any control over circuit court or any other court, but I also think we do have control over how quickly we respond to things internally. And it sounds to me like the question that's being asked, or the item that's being asked to be added, is how quickly we respond to a retaliation complaint versus any other complaint. And if we could just put something on the book that says, when a tenant files a retaliation complaint, we will respond within X days, which means we start the investigation. And I think that that's really all that's being asked, because if we delay that, then the tenant could still suffer, even if they're found to be right in their complaint. If they ended up being evicted in the process, then we really didn't help them at all.
That's right.
So I think that is really the question. It's as simple as, if a retaliation complaint comes in, we will respond within 5 days. No, not 30. That's too long. So 5 days, 7 days, whatever it is, just so that a tenant understands in the instance of retaliation. That's not a normal complaint, right? Because in a normal complaint, there's no possibility of eviction. But in a retaliation complaint, there could be. And so in a retaliation complaint, then this is what we will do. I think that that's the question that's being asked.
I think so.
And we can't amend that tonight if we want to.
Right.
We could actually add that tonight.
Right.
And I just want, for your information, I think there might be the impression that if an owner retaliates against a tenant and they can immediately put them out. That's not the case. They would have to go through, no.
That's not the legal case. That's not the legal
Well,
case.
then that becomes a police matter if you're talking about something else. But from a landlord-tenant standpoint, if a owner wants to evict a tenant, there's a process. It's called a forcible entry and detainer. And I think I included that information in the email I sent out when this issue was raised. And that takes a substantial amount of time.
That's two separate issues.
Certain it's not.
My response to that is, for the landlords who follow the law. And we know that there are landlords in our city who do not follow the law, because if they did, we wouldn't have to write this ordinance. Right. They unlawfully rent properties. They unlawfully put people in properties that are in uninhabitable conditions. So for those situations and for those people are not following the law, and they will go into someone's house and put their belongings out on the curb. We see it all the time. Therefore, we owe it to our citizens to provide them additional, we're probably already doing it. We're providing them additional protections. We need to be able to say, this is what we do, so that they understand and that they know, and so that the bad landlords also know and are put on notice. But I agree with you. Yes, there's a process, and landlords should be following the process, but the truth of the matter is, only the good landlords follow the process.
So in a scenario where, let's say we put a time frame of 5 days, okay? One, that's gonna be a burden on the inspectors, but more importantly, in your scenario where you have owners, bad owners that aren't following the law, if we say we will go out within 5 days and they don't follow the law and they go in and put tenants out in the street in 1 day, how does our 5-day help them?
Can I answer that question? Because we're not, this is after a code enforcement issue has been filed, and the code enforcement officer has found code enforcement issues. So the code enforcement issue is being repaired by the landlord, and once he's done repairing the issues, he turns around and he charges the tenant for the repairs. That's something totally different than another 10-day violation, a 10-day eviction for something else.
Okay, in what you're talking about, and I don't know the specific case you're referring to because you've never brought it to me.
Yes, you do know that case because you asked for the file.
No, listen, at this point, no more comments from staff. Alderman, please proceed as you wish.
Alderman Cooper.
Instead of 30 days, let's let it go through our committee, the 26th, and then bring it to full council the 3rd, and hopefully we can have that added or resolved by the 3rd. So I'll change my motion to go that way.
To a date specific. Alderman Streaming,
What was the date?
December 3rd. So
We'll go through our
public
committee and then
services
go to
next
full
week,
council.
and then
I'll change mine to the 3rd as well.
The original motion's been amended to move it to a time-specific date of the first full city council meeting December 3rd. It's been seconded by Alderman Streeving.
Call for question.
A yes vote means it moves forward, or that it passes. A no vote.
No, a yes.
Yes vote means the amendment moves forward.
That's correct. A yes
A
vote.
no vote means it doesn't move forward.
Wait,
Then we'll go back to the original.
Amendment or table?
Table.
Yes means that you're tabling. A yes vote right now means you will be tabling it until December 3rd.
Yeah.
A no vote means you wish to proceed with a vote this evening.
Is it going to public
Services.
in the meantime, next week? Okay.
Okay. Roll call, please.
I had a question or two.
Mr. Butler, the
would
question
call
has
for the
been
question.
called.
Would that affect the registration? That's what I was gonna ask.
This will throw everything back 2 weeks at least. Yes. Okay, roll call.
Alderman Wilson, Wands,
No.
Bouchard,
I want some clarification on that. What is the vote again?
Yes, the tabling goes forward. No, it doesn't.
Okay.
If you say yes, then we're going to have to wait to vote on this for 2 weeks. If you say no, we're going to vote on it this evening.
Okay, no.
O'Kane,
No.
Iverson,
Yes.
Poor,
No.
Streebing,
Yes.
Pickering,
No.
Ludwig,
No.
Teague,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
York,
Yes.
Cooper,
Yes.
Butler,
Yes.
7 yes.
It is tabled. 7 yes, we'll table it, since there's only 13 of us, 7's a majority, so. So it's tabled until December 3rd.
We'll put
6
that
p.m.
on as a item.
Yes.
We'll put it on an item for
Yes.
discussion for next week, yes.
Just a little clarification between all. Hopefully, Sandy, you might be able to address your issues with Leon or whatever and try to get this thing.
The problem is there's a fundamental difference in how this is assessed, so there will not be a reconciliation. Unfortunately, I can assure you, they have differing visions of this, and there's not a reconciliation. So anyways, you can discuss that with them after the meeting or at another time, certainly.
I'll get with you.
Okay, now we're going to 12 F and G. Oh, if there's no objection, I'd like to take F and G together. They're both approving Lynch Road roadway improvements. No objection, move to dispense reading, ask for approval, need a second.
Second.
Okay,
Chairman, I just want to clarify that this is closing out projects that existed under the previous administration. We have things going back to the 1990s where Public Works did not properly close out road projects with IDET, so that's why our MFT funds are frozen currently until we have all those reconciled, because things were not properly closed out previously. That's the.
And I understand that IDOT even said that some of our people that come down and audited this was not right. Right?
That's
and we're going back clear back to the 90s. So
I was in high school
yeah.
for some of this.
Mayor, this is actually an agreement for Lynch Road improvements.
Oh, this is a new one. I'm sorry. I thought
Lynch
this was
Road
the closing
improvements
out.
and Lynch Road improvements, funding and agreement.
I apologize. I was on the wrong item.
Okay. Well, Public Works, we had things all over. We had to.
There was some of everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
We had to move on. So it'd be a vote on F and G. Roll call, please.
Alderman Wands?
Yes.
Bouchard?
Yes.
O'Kane?
Yes.
Iverson?
Yes.
Hoare?
Yes.
Streaming?
Yes.
Pickering?
Yes.
Ludwig?
Yes.
Teague?
Yes.
Williams?
Yes.
York?
Yes.
Cooper?
Yes.
Butler?
Yes.
Wilson? 13 yes.
13 yes, thank you. 12H is a resolution approving the Harrison Park Golf Course 2025 fee schedule. Move to dispense reading, ask for your approval.
Second.
Questions on that?
Just
Alderman
one.
Cooper.
What type of increase is this? Or is it steady, or is there an increase at all?
There slight increases across the board. We did hold the green fees, and then cart fees slightly went up due to new carts and a new cart lease. Felt like that was appropriate. The other thing that went up mainly was like the special rates, and then you'll also see never before have we had where we've actually had our golf outing rate in our rates that you guys are approving. So we've added that in there just to make sure that there's full transparency. That's another one we've added. But outside of that, the season passes, we actually those are reduced by $5 across the board, just as a marketing little, I don't know, that was suggested by AJ. But basically, that's just to give a little bit more of a positive vibe when buying your season pass. So outside of that, that's basically it.
$7.95 sounds better than $800.
Yeah.
No comment. If could you email me the 24 rates and then I can compare them?
Yep.
Okay.
Anyone else? Roll call, please.
Alderman Bouchard?
Yes.
O'Kane?
Yes.
Iverson?
Yes.
Hoare?
Yes.
Streaming?
Yes.
Pickering?
Yes.
Ludwig?
Yes.
Teague?
Yes.
Williams?
Yes.
York?
Yes.
Cooper?
Yes.
Butler?
Yes.
Wilson? Wands?
Yes.
13 yes.
13 yes, passes. Okay, moving on. There's no objection. Both these resolutions, I and J, deal with storm sewer improvements. I is awarding a contract for bid 670 for the Dawn Avenue, Montclair Street, and Monterey Court storm sewer improvements. J is awarding a contract for bid 761 Meadowlawn Area Storm Sewer Phase 1 and 2 improvements. Move dispense reading, ask for your approval. Need a second.
Second.
Okay, questions on that? Okay, roll call please on I and J.
Alderman O'Kane?
Yes.
Iverson?
Yes.
Hoare?
Yes.
Streebing,
Yes.
Pickering,
Yes.
Ludwig,
Yes.
Teague,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
York,
Yes.
Cooper,
Yes.
Butler,
Yes.
Wilson, Wands,
Yes.
Bouchard,
Yes.
13 yes.
13 yes. Okay, moving on to K. Get this up here. Okay. A resolution amending the fiscal year 24-25 budget for the IHDA HAFHR grant. Move to dispense with reading and ask for your approval. Need a second.
Second.
Okay. Anybody want to know what the acronyms mean?
Yeah.
Illinois Housing Development Authority and Homeowner Assistance Fund Home Repair Program Fund. How's that?
You did your homework.
Will there be a
That's, I'm
quiz
reading,
later?
that's right. That's why I wanted to get to this page, so in case there was a question. Okay, questions? Oh, Vice Mayor.
I recall, Administrator Kronk, that at Public Works last week, I asked for update on number of houses and how many we might add and all of that. When might we expect that information?
Now. So currently we have 18 completed or active right now, and that's pushing it. So we kind of have to see how the numbers play out. And then with the new allocated grant dollars, the minimum amount is 10. More realistically, we'll probably be around the 15 to 20 mark with the new money. That just, there's a lot of variables there. So, yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Anyone else? And going on, you're just going on the same list? People just move up on the list?
Yeah.
Are we accepting any additional people on the list?
No.
But no, I mean, nobody else can apply for anything.
No, we are using the same list, and it's right around 495. So we should be good to go for a long time.
Good to go.
Yeah, yeah.
Let's keep doing such a good job and keep getting more money.
Yeah, we'll try.
Oh, Vice Mayor.
So, I'm thinking ahead. Obviously, we also rehabilitate houses through CDBG. So, I know CDBG is a program that continues to renew. Is two questions. One, do you know if the state plans to renew this?
Yeah, so this was a special funding source that the state received. That's why the timeline was so quick. They have given some insight that they'd like to continue this. As in most of the IDA programs, they very rarely do an annual renewal of their grant funds. So I wouldn't expect to see any rehabilitation funds coming next year. I would look for a biannual on that. That's my assumption. But they're always looking for other federal dollars to filter to communities, so we'll see.
Okay.
It would have a slightly different acronym.
Right.
Yeah.
My second question is then, for the 350 or so houses that we have not gotten to, do those potentially become candidates for CDBG?
So I would recommend that we do a completely separate application process, which will reopen. We're going to make this more of a consistent application process. I would say it'll be around the start of the fiscal year, May 1. Just different demographic information is collected for the HUD applications in comparison to the IDA. So I would recommend keeping the two pools of applicants separate.
And so is there a reason that you want to keep that separated? What is less money, more money?
No, the required information from both entities, one is a state entity and one is a federal entity. So they both require different information to be reported back to them. So having a separate application will allow us to gather the correct information for each entity.
And then being in a grant, you have to kind of keep it separated too, so you can accountability.
Yeah, and currently they're two separate programs in terms of what can be done on the home. CDBG is exterior only right now, and IDA mandates that it's a whole home rehabilitation.
Anybody else? Okay, roll call please on K.
Alderman Iverson?
Yes.
Poor?
Yes.
Streaming?
Yes.
Pickering?
Yes.
Ludwig?
Yes.
Teague?
Yes.
Williams?
Yes.
York?
Yes.
Cooper?
Yes.
Butler?
Yes.
Wilson? Wands?
Yes.
Pashard?
Yes.
O'Kane?
Yes.
13 yes.
13 yes, thank you. 12L is a resolution approving amending contract for the CDBG Housing Rehab Project at 1020 East Main Street. Move to dispense reading and ask for approval. Need a second.
Second.
Okay. Questions? Okay. Roll call, please.
Chairman Poor?
Yes.
Chairman Streaming?
Yes.
Alderman Pickering?
Yes.
Ludwig?
Yes.
Teague?
Yes.
Williams?
Yes.
York?
Yes.
Cooper?
Yes.
Butler?
Yes.
Wilson? Wands?
Yes.
Pashard?
Yes.
O'Kane?
Yes.
Iverson?
Yes.
13 yes.
13 yes, thank you. 12M, item of information. Oh, Mayor, anything?
No, sir.
Okay. Mayor, that concludes our report.
Thank you, Chairman Poor. At this time, I'll receive our public services report. Chairman Streaming.
Items of information, 13A. We will meet here November 26th at 6 p.m. And that's all I've got.
Thank you very much, Chairman. At this time, we will receive an update on the budget from our comptroller. Comptroller speaking.
At the last meeting, we discussed the grocery tax, taking that information back and applying the updated contracts for police command. We actually found ourselves in a deficit of $112,000, and that's if we kept the grocery tax. So to kind of just get us back to net zero, we had to eliminate an open position for an intern for legal, city clerk in the finance office. We also, I was able to update some insurance coverage because our premiums are so high. If one person flips their insurance, that helped us. That was $12,000. Sorry, Chief. We reduced the CIP for police cars by $85,000. And then miscellaneous departments, we reduced training, travel, and expense by $1,000, office supplies by $1,500, and took $500 away from community relations activities. That got us back to zero.
And as you all know, by law, we're required to pass a balanced budget, and not only that, we would desire to pass a balanced budget because we see federally and state-wise what happens when you don't really.
And that would hold the 1%.
That's if we keep the grocery
on
tax.
groceries only.
That keeps the grocery tax on the budget, yes.
It keeps it on the budget.
Keeps it on the budget.
And if we don't,
If we don't,
then you've
I'm
got to
gonna
cut
need-
it more than 112,000.
I have to find another 240.
For this year, and
then it would be about
750,000 to $1 million every
Yeah.
year after.
Or Vice Mayor.
Two questions. One general question, which is when are we planning to vote on the budget and tax levy?
I believe the expectation is to be at the next full council. So on, what did we say? That was the
2
third?
weeks.
Yeah.
Okay. And then have you sent out updated documents with the changes?
No, I just was able to locate that. Mayor and I met earlier this week to figure out that amount to get, get back to the 112.
Will the updated documents be sent?
Yeah, I can send those out in the morning.
Okay, because I was going through it in detail and I had a long list of questions, which way too many for this meeting, but I will contact you to go through them.
Absolutely.
But I want to be able to write them out, and obviously I don't want to be working from an old document.
Right.
Thank you.
And the 1% sales tax that the state is no longer going to collect on groceries is why the city needs to collect it.
Correct. So currently the state of Illinois charges a 1% tax on groceries. What happens today is the state collects that 1% and then sends it back directly to our municipality for our city to use. In 2026, on 1/1/2026, the state of Illinois is no longer going to require a grocery tax. Because we are home rule, we have the opportunity to collect that tax ourselves. The only difference to the shoppers, the people buying groceries in Danville, is that instead of the money going to the state first, it would come directly to us. So it's the same tax that everybody's already paying. It's just we would collect it instead of the state.
What is the current grocery tax? I mean, tax on groceries.
1%.
It's 1%.
So
So for every $100, Chairman, it's $1.
$1.
What's the total sales tax? What are we at?
10 3/4.
Is it 9, are we 9, 3 quarters?
I would say,
Nine
yeah,
and three
it's
quarters.
gonna be around 9 and, yeah, it's gonna be around 9 because, the grocery tax is 10% of our sales tax that we collect from the state.
How do the stores pay that 1%?
Currently, they send it to the state with their other sales tax.
So they're gonna separate all that and pay us? Is that
Yes,
what you're
just
saying?
as they do for food and beverage or for gas or for liquor, it would be the same process.
That's not an additional burden on the stores writing us a check every month for that?
I can't imagine it would be too much of a burden, and I think the bigger concern should be if it's a burden on the city, and it would not be. We would be able to absorb that.
So some places are actually showing city tax, county tax, state tax, local tax, I mean, on your receipts now.
Yep.
And I would say most of those places that are selling groceries are also selling liquor, so they're already sending us a liquor tax check anyway.
Yes, Vice Mayor Iverson, or Vice Chairman Iverson.
Whatever advice you want to call me, I don't care. I discussed my feelings on the grocery tax at Public Works meeting last week, but those of you who were not in attendance, I'm against the idea because it's a unique chance for city council to actually cut taxes for the public. We don't get too many chances where we can actually say, you won't pay X, because it usually ends up being changed. And as we talked about tonight, the state came out making themselves look like heroes, saying, oh, look, we cut your taxes. What they really did is they weren't collecting any of the damn money anyway, so they're just making the city look bad. And we, of course, either have to pay it or go without the money. In the recent election, voters showed that grocery prices were among the most important issues that they had. In fact, nationally, they may have been more important than wars, because that's where the vote came out. I think it's time for the city leaders to show grocery prices are important to us as well. I know we're gonna lose money with this tax. The mayor and I were talking about that tonight, and he says if we're gonna lose $750,000, I have to come up with an idea of how to cut that out. So anybody has any ideas, give me a call, because apparently I have a week to come up with some ideas. Well, a week is gonna go to public safety, and they're gonna get to vote on it. So, I know, but I'm sure somebody on that committee will help me by passing the measure. I think we have some budget shortfalls, sure, but I think we're gonna generate enough money to overcome that. For one thing, we're gonna generate a lot more motor fuel tax money. I don't think the public's really grabbed onto that yet, because we're changing the process. We've been apparently missing a chance to get money for years, so now we're gonna make the money back. Grocery and gas prices are probably the most important things in some people's mind. It's not as much as property taxes, but they all know what it is when they pay it. If we're gonna charge them more for gas, wouldn't this be a great time to reduce what we charge them for groceries? We have some money left over due to the Brazil Tower project, and there's some other things. I know that money is earmarked for other stuff, but money can be moved around. We've been operating with a budget surplus for a while, not as much as we used to be, but this is a small tax issue. It's not gonna save Danville citizens that much money, but every little bit helps. Citizens are already paying this in the grocery store due to the state. But instead of saying people, oh, we're used to this, so let's continue it, why don't we take the opportunity to give shoppers a little break? I was making a motion against the grocery tax at the Public Works meeting, and I was told I really couldn't because you had to announce ahead of time changes you were gonna make. The mayor and I have talked about that. I don't completely agree with him because I think by ordinance, an alderman can make a motion at any time. But anyway, he said they're gonna talk about it next week, and then that group will have, public safety, will have to pass it on. And he said there will be an area where it says yes or no on the grocery tax. So because of that, I'm not gonna try and make any motions and go against Robert's rules, but I just urge everybody to think about that. Again, I know it's not a lot of money. I know it's gonna be more trouble than it's worth for us probably, But the public out there, I think, is gonna look upon that entirely differently. It's tax on groceries. You can't get anything much more simple than that. And I hope that you'll support me in the effort to not pass it. We don't even have to pass anything. All we have to say is, we move that it not be on the budget. We're not saying, we're not rejecting anything, we're not, changing laws, we're just saying, it's just not something we should talk about.
But we're not taking that vote either, are we? We're not gonna vote yes or no on implementing that tax to get that 1% back, are we?
There could be, or we could just vote to drop it out of the budget.
Yes, you will be voting yes or no on it. It will be brought to public services next week.
Will be.
Yes.
To implement the 1% loss, is that what you're saying we're gonna
Yes,
be
sir, that's
voting on?
correct.
That's so it can go to full council.
That's right.
That's,
Say what?
that's so it can go to full council.
As
That's
part of the
correct.
budget.
If I
On the
could,
budget.
I'd like to add some color. I appreciate the fact that the gas tax will be going up. Unfortunately, that's just what it is. The grocery tax is a 1% tax. We are reducing the property taxes again this year. The other piece of this is we're also losing PPRT from the state, and that's like $1.2 million for us that's going down. This is tax we normally would have collected, the state would have collected from corporations and paid out to us. And it's just not there this year. So while in previous years we may have had a surplus, that just doesn't exist. We also have a one-time shot at the 1% tax. Illinois has said as home rule, we have this one opportunity to issue that grocery tax. Outside of that, it will be a lot more difficult to try to go back and put that 1% tax back in. It will be much more difficult. On top of that, just as a citizen of the area, but not of city proper, I don't pay property taxes to the city of Danville. It just is. But I do buy groceries in Danville. You get my 1% every time I go to the store. And that's true for people from Tilton, from Westville, from Covington that come over to Walmart, from, Bismarck and Hoopston. People who come down and shop in Danville are paying that 1%. That 1% is not coming from Danville city citizens. If we take it to the levy, it's coming off directly off property taxes of people who own property in Danville. So in that respect, we're punishing them for being citizens, whereas we can let everybody else help contribute to that 1%.
The other side of that, of people not being citizens but paying into it, how much are we going to lose from the other people when they look at the fact that they're going to pay grocery tax and a much higher motor fuel tax if they come to Danville next year? So I think rather than saying, oh, look, it's not just citizens paying, I'm afraid that we might chase away the people who are becoming to Danville to pay for groceries and fuel now. Again, I know it's not a lot of money, but look at the lines you have at the grocery store, the gas station. If there's 2 gas stations and one's 3 cents cheaper a gallon, they got lines down the block and the next one has nobody there. And that's what I'm afraid might happen.
Vice Chairman Pickering.
Well, I figured this out. If you spend $250 a week, you're going to pay $2.50. That's in taxes, okay? Which a bottle of pop costs that. I don't think anybody is going to miss this. We're already paying it, and then you think we're getting, from what I understand, $60,000 monthly from this to benefit our citizens in Danville. So my personal opinion is, why don't we keep it there so we can benefit, and our citizens will benefit from it. I'm not going to miss $2.50 a week. I don't even spend $250 at the store, and I don't think very many of us would miss $2.50 a week.
And also just on the motor fuel tax, we were talking about how they would be collecting more of that. That actually goes to the infrastructure development fund. It doesn't actually come into the general fund, whereas sales tax does fund the city itself and not infrastructure.
Thank you, everyone. I'm sure we'll have much more discussion about this. Chairman Ford.
The infrastructure maintenance fee, which is the gas tax. That originally started out, we could go up to 6 cents back when that law was first implemented by the state, I think. And then we gradually increased. We had not been increasing when we hired the consultants and they did the research, found out that we should have been charging, not 6 cents, but 17 cents a gallon. Next year it'll go up to 18 cents a gallon. Is what we're looking at. I'm not sure where that, I thought it was just based on a percentage, but it'll be another 18 cents per gallon, not 6 cents or 10 cents, that we were paying this last year. So, that's an 80% increase.
I thought we were up to 12 cents.
We're up, I think we're.
Are we 12?
It'll be about a 9-cent increase.
About a 9-cent increase, so, I mean, 80+% increase in our motor fuel tax, basically on. I know Representative Black used to say, no, you don't do it per gallon, you do it based on price per gallon, so you get more. Anyway, so I mean, that's another blow we're gonna be looking at, but it's already figured in the budget with the 18 cents for infrastructure. So.
Are there any items of information for the good of the cause? I just have one. I want to congratulate everyone who was elected, especially here locally, or that represent our area. Congresswoman Kelly has been great at helping us even before she became a congresswoman. She was here multiple times visiting us. She's here regularly. She's dedicated an office to this area, and we just appreciate all the effort that she has made. And then also from there, Senator Faraci, he and his office have done a lot for our community. So just want to congratulate them as well as all the folks who were elected and or re-elected to county board. I also have to throw this in there because everyone's been congratulating us the last couple of weeks on my brother-in-law's election, first election. It was not certain until today, but I just received a message that it's been certified. So Representative Schweizer will be continuing as Representative Schweizer for our area. And he's been there a short time, but he and I actually differed on this, despite the fact that I'm his closest political ally, allegedly. And he voted to eliminate the grocery tax. So he and I don't always agree on everything. Congratulate him, because he walked over 11,000 houses in our area. He worked really hard. So
he was mine a couple of times. I kept you up.
You'll be glad to know we don't have a need for closed session this evening. Come on
let's
now.
do something.
At this time, I've entertained a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. We are adjourned. Have a good evening, everyone.